Good afternoon. I recently ran through a book called Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I guess this is technically I guess it's not a murder mystery since you don't know for sure if the person was murdered or not, but a mystery based on a crime that happened 30 years or so before this story began. So the main character, Ethan, is just moving back to the place where he grew up in New Jersey. Like 30 years ago, when he was still a kid, he and his best friend and neighbor Billy were camping in his backyard, like this activity that they often did like every week. Only one night, someone cut open the side of the tent and Billy disappeared. And the general belief is that someone took him away and that most likely he's no longer with us, but no one really knows for sure what happened. Like there were a lot of investigations and it was a highly publicized incident, especially because Hemlock Circle, like the place where they live, seems like such a nice, normal neighborhood. But in the end, like everything was inconclusive, and to this date, no one knows what happened. Ethan himself doesn't remember much of what happened like from that night. Like he has reoccurring nightmares about it, but it's hard for him now to separate like what really happened from his imagination mixed with like his own guilt and grief and stuff from that time period. But anyways, he's now back in Hemlock Circle and dealing with things that have happened in his life since then. Like he's kind of at a tough place and looking for a new job and temporarily moving into his parents' home now that they've moved to Florida. Only in the middle of the night, like he starts to notice weird things going on in the neighborhood. Like one night he sees the lights above the garage, like the most motion sensor ones, flicking on one by one as if somebody is sneaking around and like going by house. But when he goes outside, there doesn't appear to be anyone there, and that's just the start of the odd incidents that start to plague him. Like he finds a baseball in his yard, and this is really creepy to him because when he was little, one of the things that his friend Billy used to do to invite him to play together was to throw a baseball into his yard. And this was something that only the two of them knew, that was kind of like a secret signal, between best friends. So these things prompt him to begin reinvestigating the incidents of 30 years ago and trying to figure out again like exactly what happened back then and what happened to Billy. Like he's starting to wonder if maybe his friend didn't die after all and is somehow found his way back to Hemlock Circle. The story is told in shifting points of view. Like the present day is first person with Ethan, but then it's interspersed with a lot of snapshots, I guess you could say, in third person, following various characters involved in that time in the past, because his investigations lead him into re-examining the relationships between like a lot of people who live here, and actually a lot of those people still live in this neighborhood. So like the other kids and some of the adults and the different families and what all of them like were doing at that time, and all these little pieces that begin to build the picture of what really happened to Billy. I don't really have any particular feelings about this story. Like I think I read the whole thing with very minimal skip scanning, so I think the pacing and everything suited me pretty well, and I think it has that slight creepiness that I tend to enjoy. I don't think it falls under being especially scary, but that's always a bit of a matter of opinion. A few things I guess that I would want to be warned about before reading it, like let's see, well, there is quite a bit of jumping to conclusions and throwing around accusations based on pretty feeble evidence, which does tend to bother me. And I think some of the types of creepy maybe is, if you have an overactive imagination and you're reading it in the middle of the night, it might be, not the best choice of reading material. But yeah, other than that, I guess one thing that stood out to me as a little odd was just, so there is this institute next to where they live, and it becomes this thing that Ethan gets really focused on because there's all this mystery around what they actually studied there. But I guess from a reader point of view, I found it a tiny bit ridiculous because it's so obvious that it's, just people studying things like telepathy and telekinesis and whatnot, and it just doesn't strike me as something that's worth all the like sinister way that he thinks about it and that these people portray it. So it just is a little bit weird, I guess, from a reader point of view, because they make such a big deal out of something that just seems kind of not worth it.